Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Procore Championship DFS Tactics Show. Per usual, on a Wednesday night, we're going to take our final look at the forecast for Napa, California, figure out if a wave advantage has developed. We are going to look at the mixed condition model that I have made for the Procore Championship, go through the rankings, or my rankings for the week, and of course, at the end of the show, we'll make some lineups. As I've mentioned throughout this week, Gabe is not doing much for the fall portion of the schedule, so there is no 2025 picks challenge. So we will not be having that throughout the fall portion of the year, but we'll definitely pick that up starting at the Century for 2026. But we are here for the Procore, so let's get into it, shall we? I don't want to waste any more time. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I post research Monday mornings or Monday afternoons regarding the tournament of the week, some course info, patterns of previous winners, things of that nature. Didn't do anything for the Procore. Like I explained Monday night, there wasn't a whole lot of consistency between winners. But normally, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday night after the DFS Tactics show, so that'll be out later this evening. You want to see the players I've wagered for the week and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I cannot recommend it enough. Make sure you are subscribed to it, because every Wednesday he sends out his deluxe version, which has the projected ownerships, his top plays and favorite values, things of that nature. So you really are missing out if you're not subscribed to it. And go show him some support. Follow him over on social media. Again, his handle's in the description. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat is open. I want to hear from you all. I have a poll question typed up. Would love to hear from you all in that regard. And then, for the Procore, who's your winner? Do you think Scotty dominates this? As we'll see here after a little while, his ownership is quite massive. Do you think Scotty's the massive favorite? Do you think somebody else should be the favorite? What do you think of the Ryder Cup players playing this week? All of that. Put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. And if you're not able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. Let's get into it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2025 Procore Championship. We're going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening over at the Super Forecast over at Windfinder. We looked Monday. There wasn't a whole lot to really get into in terms of wave advantage and wind or anything like that. Looking at this forecast, I still am not factoring in any kind of wave advantage. You could make the argument perhaps that the Friday PM portion has a slightly worse end of it because they have a little bit more gusty winds, but it's pretty darn similar to what they're going to see Thursday afternoon. So again, I see this being fairly even in terms of a wave advantage. There is no precipitation at all in the forecast. It is a little bit chillier on Thursday as it is Friday, only a high in the mid-70s on Thursday as opposed to reaching the low 80s on Friday. But all of this to say, I did not factor in a wave advantage in my calculations, in my lineups. I don't suggest that you do. If you wanted to argue that the Friday PM has it slightly worse, I wouldn't, argue against you too much. Is how I would phrase that. But there's a look at the forecast, at least the cut portion of the forecast. And if we zoom out, take a look at the weekend, a whole lot of the same. Very calm in the morning, winds picking up to maybe low double digits in the afternoon, both Saturday and Sunday. Although Sunday does look like it's going to get a little warmer, highs in the mid-80s. So there's a look at the forecast. I'll close that. We'll move to Fantasy National, but before I forget, because I already did, let's go ahead and post the poll question for this week and the Procore Championship. Pretty simple with the Ryder Cup, the next event in golf, at least for the PGA Tour. My question to you, the viewer, is pretty simple. How big of a deal is it that the 10 American Ryder Cup players are playing this week? How big of a deal do you think it'll be? Either this week and or at the Ryder Cup. Is it a big deal, middling deal, small deal, or is it no deal at all? So would love to hear the viewer's opinion on the matter. Feel free to put your thoughts in there. Feel free to please fill that out, and then jump into chat with your opinion on why you selected what you did. We don't have a whole lot to review, I guess is the best way to put that. The only metric that I felt comfortable using in any sort of mixed condition model basis was the short course filter. Silverado is 7,100 yards, a little bit longer than that, but as a par 72 at just over 7,100 yards, it is a very short course, all things considered. So I used this filter on a few of the metrics that we looked at in the mixed condition model, or that I used in the mixed condition model. So we'll cover that here momentarily. But your top performers on short courses, going back to the beginning of last year, that are in the field, or that is in the field this week for the Procore, you've got Tom Kim, Akshay Bhatia, Isaiah Salinda, Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler, Ben Griffin, Russell Henley, Patrick Cantlay, Keith Mitchell, and Mark Hubbard are your top 10 in terms of performance on short courses. And like I said, really, there is no other filter that I am comfortable using. You absolutely could look at the average difficulty relative to par, considering for the past few years, despite this being a fall event, and everything that comes with being a fall event, the ease and all that stuff, not very difficult. It's played to average in terms of difficulty relative to par. All rounds were average last year. 3 rounds were average the year before that. You did have a full year of easy in 2021, Max Homa's first win. But even before that, it was easy. You even had some rounds that were difficult, a little bit further back into the late 2010s. So this has been average in terms of difficulty for the past few years. I do not like using that filter. I generally prefer to use easy or difficult. But if you wanted to look at average relative to par, your top performers in the field this year, using that filter: Scotty, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Spawn, English, Fishburne, Russell Henley, Cameron Young, Alex Smalley, and Matt McCarty. Again, skipping the Jesper Svensson, he withdrew earlier this week. That's really about all we have in terms of high-level overview or anything to do with filters. Again, no architect filter. This is a Peter Harmon design, I believe is his name. In fact, that way I don't butcher it, I'll go ahead and bring it up. Ben Harmon, my apologies. I knew it wasn't Brian Harmon. Ben Harmon. Renovated by RTJ and Johnny Miller, but this is an original Ben Harmon design, so nothing to do with architect filter. You could look at calm winds, but I'm not all that tied to it, if you will. So let's go ahead and go to the mixed condition model that I have made for the Procore Championship this week, and I'm just locking these in case I hit a button by mistake. We're going to start with 10% in approach, and the data all week suggested that approach is not very important here. but I still want to make sure that guys are in decent iron form and can still hit greens, if you will. So I never thought about leaving approach out of the mixed condition model. I tried making it with 5%. I didn't feel comfortable doing that, but definitely approach is not the main shot type here around Silverado. So that's why it is quite deflated, especially for me as an analyst who loves that metric, who prefers that metric. You know, a lot of times I'll be 15, 20, 25% in approach, backing it down to 10%, really emphasizing how little it has mattered over the past 5 years in favor of around the green. Around the green has been one of, if not the most important shot type. You can argue putting around Silverado, but I'll get into why I have so little here in a moment. 15% around the green. It has been a very, very important part of who has played well around Silverado the past few years. You think of players like Sahith Theegala, who's very, very good around the green. Patton Kizzire, while he might not be the best around the green, he was at this point last year, and he still has been very good in 2025. You see, he's been pretty darn bad around with all the other metrics, with the exception of around the green. And coming into the tournament last year, he was in great around the green form. So definitely have a lot of emphasis in around the green this week. 15% there. I only have 5% in putting because when I went back and looked at the previous champions, it was quite a mixed bag on how well they were putting coming into the tournament. I should have kept his page up, but for example, like Patton Kizzire gained 9 last year at the Procore, but he hadn't gained strokes putting in the past 3 months. So he was in no putting form at all. Sahith Theegala, like one year Max Homa was in good putting form. 1 year he wasn't. If we look at Sahith, Sahith's win at the Procore, or then with the Fortinet, like he was in good putting form in the middle of the PGA Tour season, then was kind of hit and miss, but gained 9 that week at the Fortinet here at Silverado. So putting in general has been quite hit and miss, and that's why it's a very, very fickle metric, and I don't like depending on it, despite the fact that the players who generally top 10, top 5 here at Silverado are outperforming everyone else in putting. I know obvious statements seem obvious, but really, really emphasized here at Silverado. I've only got 5% in it because I wanted to make sure I rewarded players who were just very good on bent and Poa annua. You see the multiple season filter, you see the multiple course filter, multiple seasons going back to 2020, or including this year, 2025, 2024, and 2023. And I went back into the GCSAA to historical years, 2024 and 2023. It's zoomed out a little bit here. My apologies, but I went and made sure I included every course that had bent and Poa annua according to the GCSAA tournament fact sheets. So this includes the 2024 BMW, which was at Castle Pines. This includes the 2023 RBC Canadian Open at Oakdale. Olympia Fields is in here, which is another BMW event. So again, I just made sure that there was a lot, or that all of the courses that were played on bent and Poa annua from 2023, 2024, and obviously 2025 were in here. The regular courses are TBC River Highlands, Silverado, and Detroit Golf Club. So that's what this set of data is. I wanted to reward players who have putt well on Bent and Poa Annua, but I didn't want to overweight it, so it's only 5%. 5% in good drives gained on short courses. I was really thinking about looking at short rough because the rough here is only kept at 2.5 inches long, according to the GCSAA. But when you look at the historic conditions, it's been listed as average for years, for a long, long time. So instead of trying to interpret or guess what the rough length will officially be, I just went with what I knew in terms of short courses. I didn't put a whole lot of weight in here because there's not a whole lot of importance on ball striking around Silverado. Players are not afraid to be in the rough. It's not difficult to play out of. Greens aren't necessarily difficult to hit. So 5% in good drives gained, 5% in opportunities on short courses, 5% in birdies or better gained on short courses. Even though this tournament is average, you still have to get to about 18, 19 under, sometimes into the low 20s if you want to win. So you still have to make quite a few birdies around here. There are a few eagles, not as many as you would think for a short par 72, but there are eagles that happen. They do have a drivable par 4 one of the 4 days. So eagles do happen. That's why we're looking at birdies or better, not just birdies. We move along to 5% in 75 to 100 proximity. There were 2 proximities when we went through the data Monday night that were positive in terms of importance against the average full field course. Not only that, looking at the course breakdown here, the majority of approach shots, especially compared against the PGA Tour average, comes from 75 to 125. So I have 5% in the 75 to 100 because it was not nearly as important as the 100 to 125, both graphically and data-wise from Monday night. So 10% in proximity, 100 to 125. Really going to have to be solid with your wedges if you want to contend around Silverado. 5% in the specific length of par 3s, 175 to 200. Most important length of par 3 here at Silverado. 3 of the 4 par 3s fall to this range. And the one that doesn't is 212. Probably not going to drop under 200. So 197 right on the border, 189 and 182. Those are pretty comfortably probably going to be in that 175 to 200 bucket. So 5% there. 10% in all par 4s and 10% in the specific length of 400 to 450. Like we talked about Monday night, going through the data, 6 of your 10 par 4s fall to this range. It was overwhelmingly the most important range of par 4 in terms of strokes gained. I didn't want to ignore the rest of the par 4s, particularly the short par 4s. And we do have one par 4 that's above 450 at 458. But most of these are going to play in that 400 to 450, 422, 412, 417, 407. Like, they're pretty short here at Silverado. So that's why we have 10% in the specific range there. And then lastly, 15% in par 5s. That is where the majority of your strokes are going to be gained here at Silverado, as you can see, for your top 10s, particularly your winners. A lot in par 5s, excuse me. So definitely going to have to play par 5s well to contend around Silverado. 15% in those lengths of par 5s. There's the mixed condition model that I've made for the Procore. Hopefully I've explained my reasoning why I have included the stats and metrics that I have. Areas where I might be weak, my first obvious answer is that I don't have enough in putting. But again, as I explained, putting is generally pretty fickle, and the past champions were all over the place, really, in terms of form coming in with putting. So I didn't feel comfortable, looking at recent putting. So I'm going to be weak to that just by nature a little bit. If these proximities don't, for whatever reason, don't matter as much this year, maybe 200 plus matters because of the par fives. But that's why I put extra emphasis in the par fives down here. I don't have any off the tee. Off the tee has been a non-factor almost around Silverado the past few years. So if that matters this week and this year, I'll be weak to that. But there's the mixed condition model that I've made for the Procore. So with that, we'll move to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings. And for your information, if you're a new viewer, as a reminder for returning viewers, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The FNGC rank, Fantasy National will spit out a ranking, will rank players in the field based on the mixed condition model that we just talked about, metrics and percentages. You see Scotty, obviously number 1, but he's falling for a couple of reasons. But Fantasy National will spit out a rank that is a part of my rankings. Course value is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value at how well they have played that course over the past 5 years. I only go back 5 years because a lot of things change on the PGA Tour. The lower the number, the better. So somebody like Justin Thomas, who's only played once, but it was a top 5. Sam Burns only played once, but it was a top 10. Somebody like Sahith Theegala, who is 5 for 5 with an average finish of 15th. Even though he is not rating well, I'm trying to show you where. There he is. Like, his course value is extremely good because he's played so well here. Same would go for Max Homa, who's close to the bottom here, 2-time champion. So they have very low course values. And then the third factor in my rankings, we are playing DFS. We're trying to find unique options off of our fellow contestants. Projected ownerships, and these are from Gabe. He has done his own calculations for the majority of 2025, and he's been pretty darn spot on. Yes, he'll miss 1 or 2 each week. Sometimes he misses it by a lot. It happens. But he's been pretty darn good, and I've felt confident and trusted his methodologies and such that I've been using his projected ownerships. So projected ownerships are the third and final factor that go into my rankings. My rankings for the Procore this week. Justin Thomas is my number 1 player. You see, he's played well here in his 1 try in the past 5 years. He is quite a bit owned, but not to the level of the gargantuan amount of ownership that Scotty Scheffler is. And the model liked him plenty enough being 3rd. Matt Kuchar, 2nd. Andrew Putnam, Sam Burns, and Akshay Bhatia round out my top 5. Mark Hubbard, J.J. Spawn, Russell Henley, Danny Walker, 6,500. Danny Walker is 9th. The model really liked him. He's like hard, barely owned. I don't know if I would put Danny Walker 9th, but somebody that you can definitely take a look at. And then Taylor Montgomery rounds out my top 10. As you can see, there is no way I would make Scotty Scheffler truly 17th in my rankings. He is getting hurt quite a bit by this gargantuan ownership. Almost 50% owned is at least projected for Scotty this week. So it's definitely a decision you have to make, especially when we start considering pricing as well. So don't get it twisted. It's not that I am down on Scotty by any means. He was number 1 in the model. Clearly, I think he should be number 1 by the model. He is getting hurt by the fact that he has not played this course ever, so we don't know if he's going to like it, and his huge ownership. But otherwise, other than Danny Walker, I really don't have a problem with my top 10. Kuchar is somebody that I've been eyeing quite a bit this week. Really had my eyes on him. He's played very, very well here. You know, good around the green, good approach play, all of that. Andrew Putnam, anytime you don't factor in off the tee, Andrew Putnam's generally going to rise. Also helps that he is the number one around the green player in this field. Sam Burns, who's been playing well. Hubbard, Spawn, who's actually played pretty darn well around Silverado the past 5 years. Russell Henley, again, no surprise, who's played very, very well. So there's a look at my top 10. Enough rambling. Let's sort on the price board, figure out where our fellow contestants seem to be going on the price board, and where or how we can maneuver around them at these various points throughout it. In the 5 digits, I will say in the 10Ks, even though Scotty's 14-4, in the 5 digits, we have 3 players. Scotty at the aforementioned 14,400, then all the way down to Justin Thomas at 10.2, Russell Henley at 10,000. Right off the bat, you have a decision to make. Are you going to play Scotty at 14.4? And we'll jump ahead just a little bit, looking at some lineup stuff here. Are you going to play Scotty and essentially play 2 or 3 6Ks and a whole lot of the low 7s, because you're only averaging 7,100 per player using Scotty, with no 5K range, which makes it pretty challenging, to be honest. And with that huge amount of ownership, you're not gaining any uniqueness off of him. Are you going to play Scotty Scheffler? That is the question you have to ask yourself this week. I wish I could be bold. I'm going to play him, but I'm going to be extremely underweight on Scotty. I am basically playing Scotty Scheffler as a cover myself. I'll play him 2 or 3 times. But he's not the player I'm going to most often up here, because of this ownership, and some of it being in the price, which tells you how I feel about the 6Ks. But this ownership is ugly. You're not able to differentiate yourself very well using Scotty. Because of that, I'm going to Justin Thomas, my number 1 player in my rankings. He's played well here, not just once in the past 5 years. He's played pretty darn well here several times. If we take a look at his Fortinet history, you see he top 5 2 years ago. He had another top 5 in 2019, a top 10, another top 5. I know these are a lot more historical, but he's had a lot of success here at Silverado. So you combine that with the fact that he is the most unique option in the 10Ks, even more unique than Russell Henley. I think this is a pretty big no-brainer, at least for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Russell Henley, but I'm going to play all of the Justin Thomas. I'm just going to plant my flag on Justin Thomas. So, like I said, I'm going to play a little bit of Scotty, and I'm going to play a whole lot of Justin Thomas, and if Russell Henley plays well, I will lose. But I'm a little bit concerned with his putter, especially on this surface. Everything else is fantastic. Number 1 in the short wedge proximity, 75 to 100. Gets plenty of, he plays very well on short courses. 8th, 11th, 31st in the 3 various metrics. It's this putter on Bent and Poa annua where he hasn't been very good. Justin Thomas really likes Poa. I understand this is Bent and Poa annua, but he's putt well here. And Justin Thomas isn't the best putter in the world, so I'm quite intrigued with that. Both of them play par 4s very well, clearly. Justin Thomas is also much better from 100 to 125. I would think Justin Thomas is better around the green, but Russell Henley's been statistically better around the green. Henley's been better with the irons. I'm just going with JT. I'm confident and comfortable looking at his historical performance here at Silverado. So that's how I see the 10Ks. Moving to the 9s, Burns, Cantlay, Griffin, Cam Young, Spawn, Colin Morikawa, and Mav McNeely. Like I talked about at the Wyndham and at the St. Jude, like Cam Young, it's going to take a while for me to catch up to Cam Young. Because generally speaking, he's not the best iron player. Although clearly he's improved based on his performance at the Wyndham and whatnot. Not great around the green. He devours par 5, sure. He's very good on the surface, but kind of lacks in the shorter par 4s. He's not very good. Good drives gained. He will miss a lot of fairways. I know that's not the biggest deal around Silverado. I don't know. It just takes me a while to get to Cameron Young. And so if I'm late on Cameron Young, that's fine. And I've backed Cantlay a whole lot this summer, and it just never really panned out. I expected him to really pull through at some point, and he just never did. So I'm not going to use Cantlay. I'm not using Cameron Young. Otherwise, here in the 9Ks, I'll probably just kind of mix and match. And I can afford to do so because I'm not using Scotty all that much. I'm using Justin Thomas. So I'll sprinkle some Sam Burns. He's played well here. Granted, it's only one time, but you know he's one of the best putters in the field on the PGA Tour even. Ben Griffin, hard to ignore how well he has played. Although his putter on Benton Poa Annua, a lot like Russell Henley, kind of scares me a little bit. Spawn's been very good around here. He's played all 5 years, that past 5 years here at Silverado, so he's very familiar with the course, and he's played very well here. Nothing wrong with that. I kind of like Mav McNeely. He's kind of my sneaky play this week, although at 16.5% projected ownership, maybe he's not all that sneaky, but you know this is somebody that I wanted to key in on early this week was Mav McNeely. You'll see him on my betting card later on social media. I've been keyed in on McNeely. So in the 9s, I'm not really going to one particular player more than the other. Just kind of mixing and matching with my different Justin Thomas lineups. Because I really don't think you're able to fit a 9K with Scotty. We can try very quickly, but I just don't see it happening. I don't know why. There we go. So like if we go Scotty, and then I'll just use the most the cheapest 10K at McNeely. I mean that leaves you an average of 6,600 basically for 4 spots. It's just really, really hard to do that. So any Scotty Scheffler lineup that I'm using is just not using the 9Ks. So, and that's another reason why I'm just not terribly high on Scotty. You know, in addition to the ownership and all that. So, in the 9s, I'll sprinkle all but Cantlay and Cameron Young. Moving to the 8s. A couple players in here that I kind of like. I know Batia rated out extremely well. I'm not as high on Batia, especially because he really has lacked around the green, and his putter has not been great on this surface. You know, opportunities has been great. Birdies are better. He's been great. He's actually been really, really good on these lengths of par 3s that you have to take advantage of if you're really going to contend. Great on par 5s. I don't know. This is kind of a gut feeling on Akshay Bhatia, considering he's been fairly middling here at Silverado. I know he rated high. I'm not terribly excited about it. If Max Homa was in any kind of form, you'd want to play him, but my gosh, there's a lot of deep red here. Around the green's not great. His proximity, his wedge proximity has been really bad. He's always putt well generally on this surface, but he even lost strokes putting here last year. Opportunity's not good. Good drives gained not good. He was look at this, the worst in the field. I mean worst in the field at these lengths of par 3s in 2025. Really the only thing you have going for Max Homa is the course history. So if you're a big believer in course history, I can understand it, but I can't recommend it. Instead, in the mid-8s, there's a couple players I'm kind of looking at. Jackson Koivunen, he kind of suffers from the Cameron Young, I guess, problem for me, that his irons haven't been great. So he's going to generally be pretty low in my rankings. He hadn't been great around the green. This kid's uber talented. He's got some starts under his belt now. He played very well. I think it was at the Wyndham. I'm going to play a little bit of Jackson Koivunen this week. Max Grazerman is another player that I'd be pretty interested in. Very good around the green. His irons, I don't think, are this bad, although statistically they haven't been great. He is one of the best putters on this surface. Not as big of a sample size as some of these other players, but he's been very good when he's been on this surface. I'm gonna take a look at some Max Grazerman, and I kind of like Matt McCarty as well. Matt McCarty, good around the green, good putter. I wish his wedge proximity was a little better, but I'm going to play some Matt McCarty. You could look at Thorbjorn Olesen as well at 8,100. He is the number one player in this field in 2025 at this length of par fives, which is prevalent here at Silverado. So you would expect him to take advantage of those par fives. So maybe for that reason alone, in addition to his seemingly pretty darn unique status, you can take a look at Olesen. But I'm more interested in Koivunen, Grazerman, and McCarty in the mid-8s. Davis Thompson could be interesting as well at 8,800. I skipped him, but he could be interesting. But I'm much more inclined to look at the mid-8s as opposed to Davis Thompson at 8,800. So there's a look at the 8s for me. Moving to the 7Ks, Mark Hubbard played very well around here. Generally just fairly solid. He might not be exceptional at anything, but you don't see a whole lot of pink or red statistics. It's just kind of solid. Patrick Fishburne is somebody else to take a look at. Finished third here last year, despite the fact that he doesn't putt this surface well. So kind of interesting. His big thing, he really likes these shorter par fours, and he's pretty good with his wedge proximities. So Fishburne's interesting. I'm all about some Matt Kuchar this week. If Matt Kuchar doesn't play well, I will lose. I'm all in on Matt Kuchar. He might be my most owned player, considering he is at a great price point at 7,800, 7% projected ownership. I understand his age. You might not think this would work for him, but he's been really good here. Really, really good here. If we take a look at his player page view just very, very quickly and take a look at the Fortinet, if we look at the Procore, like he finished top 15 here last year, gaining a bunch with the irons. And if we look at the Fortinet, same course, top 10, top 15, middling in 2021, but still made the cut. Like, I really like Matt Kuchar. This place seems like a great fit for him, and it's been that way in the past. So I'm going to play all of the Matt Kuchar I can handle. Keith Mitchell rated out well. I'm still worried about the putter. This doesn't feel like a great Keith Mitchell fit, even though he's got a very good course value. He's not particularly great, or he hasn't been good around the green lately. We all know his struggles with the putter. He's much more of a ball striker, and when it gets really, really tough, he can let his iron shine. This just doesn't feel like a great fit for him. Victor Paris in the mid-7s. Take a look at Victor Paris. I know he's not great around the green, but very good with the irons. Decent enough with the putter. Very good on these par fours. Take a long look at Victor Paris. I will play some Andrew Putnam. I don't think I'm as high on him as my rankings would suggest, being third. But anytime you don't factor in off the tee, he's going to rise. He's been pretty solid around here. Best around the green player in this field, at least best around the green form, I should say. Very good on this surface as well. Top 15 putter on this surface. So take a look at Andrew Putnam. Luke Clanton could be interesting. I'm surprised he's only 4.5% projected ownership. You can take a look at Luke Clanton. I don't hate it. Much like Max Homa, if you're a big believer in course history, you really have to consider Sahith Theegala. 5 for 5 the past 5 years here. Average finish of 15th, including a win. He's in absolutely no form because he's coming in, or he's working his way back from an injury. But man, he really likes this course. So if there's a place for him to get right, it probably is Silverado. Gim's always going to rate pretty well. Good irons. He's actually been really good around the green. He's not, an abject failure on this surface, because normally he's one of the worst putters in the field. You can take a look at it. Not in love with it, but take a look at it. And then moving into the lower sevens, you've got Joel Dahmen. Again, just really, really bad putter. One of the worst in the field. But you can take a look at Joel Dahmen, I suppose. I kind of like Sam Ryder. Statistically, nothing jumps off the page. But he's generally pretty darn good with his wedges. 27th from 100 to 125. 75 to 100 leaves a lot to be desired. But, I don't know. This is kind of a gut feeling. I kind of like Sam Ryder. Moving down even further. Like, I mentioned this Monday night. He doesn't rate out well now because he's not in great form, but look how well Tom Hoagie's played this course. Tom Hoagie's not a very good putter, and he is putt very well around Silverado. He is just very comfortable on these greens. So even though he didn't rate out well, I will make sure to put Tom Hoagie in a lineup or two, considering that he's played very well around here. Not generally a good putter, and he's gained a lot around here. If we go to his page view just very quickly, if we take a look at Tom Hoagie, take a look at the Procore. Like last year, finished top 10. We expect him to gain a lot with the irons, swivel out of the way, but he gained 5 on the greens. That's not very Tom Hoagie-like. If I remove all this, like he's not been good recently, clearly. BMW, missing or losing 10 ball striking, losing 11 ball striking at the St. Jude, missed cuts at the 3M, the Open, the Scottish. Like he hadn't been good lately, I get it. But he has been pretty darn solid at the Fortinet, at Silverado. Gaining quite a bit on these greens. 3. Field average, which for Tom Hoagie's gaining a lot. Half, 2. He's just very comfortable here. He's very comfortable here. So I'm definitely going to make sure I have Tom Hoagie in a lineup or two. In the low sevens. Where am I going? Right there. Elsewhere, low sevens. You want to talk about a short game player and a short game course? Taylor Montgomery makes a whole lot of sense. He's never impressive. I'm going to play him once because of the seeming fit. Short game player on a short game course, but I'm not thrilled about it. Put it that way. And then moving into the sixes, again, one of the main reasons why I'm not so high on Scotty is because I don't like a whole lot down here. First name I'll mention is Ben Coles. 3rd in irons in this field. With all the Ryder Cuppers that are playing this week, he is 3rd in irons over the last 24. Guy that keeps the ball in front of him. 3rd in good drives. Very good with his wedges. Take a look at Ben Coles. He's not a failure around the green either. I'll point your attention to Chan Kim. Whoa, why is my mouse doing weird stuff? There we go. Chan Kim. Generally pretty solid. Not a great putter. Just hoping he makes a putt during during the week. Grayson Sig might be interesting as well. Very good from 100 to 125. Not great on this surface, but fourth 100 to 125, pretty good around the green. Like I said, I'm not all that high on Danny Walker, but if you wanted to go with my rankings, Danny Walker, who's 9th, supposedly, one of the better players at 100 to 125, 400 to 450, par fours as well. So you can take a long look at Danny Walker. But the guy I would be most interested in the 6Ks is Adam Svensson. Svensson's been very good here at Silverado, 3 for 3. Very good around the green, top 25 in irons, and excellent, and I mean excellent, at 100 to 125, these wedges. You think about his win at the RSM. It's a similar length course, similar style, and types of shots you have to play, at least into the green. I like Svensson quite a bit this week. Pretty decent on this surface. Not extraordinary, but not bad either. So if I'm in the 6Ks, it's for Svensson. But then again, he is one of the more popular players in the 6Ks. So you have to be mindful of that you're not getting a whole lot of uniqueness with Svensson in the 6s. But that is the one I'm most confident in. So there's a look at how I see the price board. Let's make some lineups. Figure out how we're going to maneuver around all of the chalk seemingly around here. Clearly the most projected on player by miles, Scotty Scheffler. So if our fellow contestants are building Scotty lineups, that does not leave them a whole lot of room otherwise. In fact, the only double-digit ownerships are 8,700 and above. That doesn't give our fellow contestants a whole lot of wiggle room. I will give them 2 6Ks to try and fit a second high, priced player. The 2 most common 6K plays seemingly are Svensson and David Lipsky at 69. So 69, 68. Even then, they're only averaging 7,300 per player. In the low 7s, Nico Echeverria. Geez, why is my mouse all over the place right now? 7%. Kevin Roy, 7.5%. But it seems like our fellow contestants are really scattershotting around here other than Scotty. Griot, 9%. Rico Hoey, mid-6s. So if we go like Rico Hoey, Taylor Montgomery was 7%. Kevin Roy. Yeah, I think it's going to be Kevin Roy and Taylor Montgomery. Like, I understand that this cumulative ownership doesn't seem too bad. All of it's in Scotty. But this is going to be a pretty common lineup, I think. Considering the prohibitive nature that Scotty is this week. Otherwise, our fellow contestants are, if they're not doing or playing Scotty, they're going like Russell Henley down to maybe like a Cameron Young, a Colin maybe, even maybe a Mav McNeely. Let's do an Akshay Bhatia in here. And then again, a lot more of this same style down here. We'll go with Griot. 75, yeah, 75 is Griot. 73 was Nico Echeverria. And then 72, that's Kevin Roy. Similar style ownership. More front-loaded with Russell Henley, Cameron Young, Bhatia. Maybe you come down off of Bhatia. Well, I don't know if you can, but maybe you come off of Cameron Young to a Colin Morikawa or a JJ Spawn. But Cameron Young's the highest owned there. So there's a look at a Scotty and a non-Scotty lineup that's probably going to be pretty popular. So how are we going to maneuver around them? Well, I'm telling you, I'm not playing too many Scotty lineups, so this is the way I've been building my Scotty lineup. I would like to use Adam Svensson here, but he is one of the more popular, or he is probably the most popular 6K play, along with David Lipsky. So I can't in good conscience put Scotty with Adam Svensson. So I gave you a couple other names. Ben Coles at 6,900 to get off the David Lipsky chalk. You could take a look at Chan Kim, Grayson Sigg. You know, maybe you want to believe in my rankings and go with Danny Walker. I'm going to go with Grayson Sigg at 67. Ben Coles at 6,900. And then moving up into the low sevens. Like, I'm not terribly crazy about a whole lot here in the sevens, low sevens particularly. Maybe this is where you try to find your spot for Tom Hoagie. You can take a look at Joel Damon, Doug Gim if you're not as scared of the putter. Andrew Putnam could work in this for sure. And then 7,500 again is Griot, Victor Paris, who I have no problems with. I don't like the Scotty lineups that I was building, especially without Adam Svensson. And Adam Svensson, you know, really increases your chances of duplication, seemingly. So just wasn't too crazy about my Scotty lineups. And because of that, that's why I've been doing a whole lot of Justin Thomas. A whole lot of Justin Thomas. And this gives me a whole lot more flexibility, wiggle room to mix and match in the 9Ks. You know, Justin Thomas and Sam Burns. And in the next lineup, I can do Justin Thomas and J.J. Spawn. I kind of like Mav McNeely this week. So I've been doing a lot of Justin Thomas, Mav McNeely starts to my lineups because there's a few players in the mid-8s. You know, Koivunen, Grazerman, McCarty, even Thorbjorn Olesen, I don't mind all that much. These lineups are definitely incorporating Matt Kuchar. Absolutely. Andrew Putnam is another player that I'm very, very high on. Patrick Fishburne, we talked about at 79. Mark Hubbard could be another interesting player here at 79. In fact, let's do like Matt Kuchar. Let's do Mark Hubbard. He's been very good around here. You know, you have 76 and 75. You could do Rico Hoey, who we didn't talk about much. Again, Victor Paris, Andrew Putnam. Like if you want to do a little bit of savings, you could do, you know, maybe Andrew Putnam, and then 7,300 Doug Gim, 7,200 Joel Damon, 7,200 Sam Ryder. Could be quite interesting this week. Don't hate. I'll fill out Sam Ryder here. This could be Tom Hoagie. You know, you got your ability to mix and match. You're leaving a little bit of money on the table, which is also going to help you be more unique. But this is why I've really liked going Justin Thomas. I'd use the cheapest option in Matt McNeely. Like you could move quite a bit of this money around, and maybe you're high on Sam Burns or a Ben Griffin. Like if we wanted to go from the one, you know, like the cheapest extreme at 9K into the, you know, the most expensive option in the 9Ks, go from McNeely to Burns, or Burbs apparently. You go to Sam Burns. Now we need to cut $200. That's not an issue. We'll take out Mark Hubbard, go Matt Kuchar, go Victor Paris, Rico Hoey, who I think is worth a shot this week. You know, and you're still hovering in that 60 to 70% ownership, which you might get duplicated, but it's not going to be very often. It's not going to be very much. I can tell you that, especially not going with Scotty. So that's the way I've been building most of my lineups. My core for this week has been Justin Thomas. I'm going to put 9K here. most every single Justin Thomas lineup I've done has been mixing and matching a 9K. And then Matt Kuchar and Andrew Putnam. I will list Adams Vinson as a core play for me. I will highlight him in a kind of an off shade. He's been kind of the center point of my Scotty lineups, and then I'll occasionally throw in a 6K's Vinson with a Justin Thomas. Get a little bit more greedy up top. Maybe I go Justin Thomas 2 9Ks with Adams Vinson, something like that. But that's been my core this week for the Procore. So with that, that's what I have for you all in terms of a DFS Tactics show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching, listening, supporting the channel, liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. We're going to try and start the fall portion of the schedule, these 7 to 8 events, off on the right foot, build us a bankroll going into 2026. So for all the wagers you've made this week for the Procore, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the Procore, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.